Hello, everyone. This is not an easy video to film for me. Um, it's not something that I'm just still processing it. I think many Eurovision fans are, and I'm trying to put things into perspective, and I'm trying to understand the bigger picture here. And yes, that is, of course, what I'm going to be talking about in this video. Was not expecting to talk about this today, even though I think many of us saw this coming for like weeks now. Um, so, for those who are unaware, I'm sorry to break the news to you, but Eurovision this year has been canceled. It was supposed to be held in Rotterdam in the Netherlands in May, and it has been held every year in May or thereabouts for the last 64 years. So this is truly a novel thing that it's not just been postponed, it's not been adjusted, it's been completely canceled. The Eurovision committee and team announced it this morning. And, I think we all knew, like I said, that there was going to be some changes this year at the very minimum. With the coronavirus, COVID-19, the pandemic we are currently facing, it's a real health risk to have such a large group of people congregating and traveling to a country like this. And there's so many borders closing, there are so many travel restrictions, there are so many regulations where you can't have groups larger than 50 people. Some countries it's groups larger than 10 people in a place. So it was increasingly not looking good for this contest, especially for it being held this spring. But I will be, like many people, I think, expressing the sentiment of shock that the Eurovision delegation has decided not to be a little bit more optimistic in their precaution here and just instead delay the contest, postpone it, give it a rain date sometime in, maybe July, or, it could even be possibly as late as September or October. However, that is seemingly to be off the table. They did post a FAQ about all these sort of questions that all of us have had about why they came to this decision. And, I can link that in the description if anyone's interested, but I'm sure you've all probably visited that already, because there's going to be a lot of questions that are going to be asked. Some people, I think are a little surprised at how quick they came to this decision and that this was the first thing they came to that they didn't. And what we can understand is that there have been talks going on for weeks, about what can be done to potentially keep this contest running. This is not something that they just easily throw aside. So much money is spent and invested in this, it's insane. And this does not bode well for the Olympics this year. I'm really concerned about as well, even though they are later on in the end of July and August. I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there. But as much as to me personally, the Eurovision Song Contest is way more exciting than the Olympics, I also would really hate to see the Olympics be canceled or postponed. Although if it's postponed, that's okay. If it's especially if it's only a few months. But there's far more likelihood that they would try and figure something out with that rather than just completely throw in the towel for the entire year. So I have a lot of thoughts and opinions on this decision. Now, as some of you might know, I have been covering Eurovision really diligently this year. For the first time, I've really been diving into each and every entry as it's been released. I mean, I kind of did that last year too. It's just I didn't actually edit and upload a video reacting to every single song. And at this stage, I think I've reacted to about like 30 out of the 41 songs that were going to be competing this year. Because as you know, we do have all 41 songs. They all were released. Some of them were revamped several times. And things were set to go. We had everything kind of starting ready to go for this competition. And I still have several countries that I need to cover songs for, which is, with the news this morning, really sort of making me wonder and question whether I just think that's worth it, because it is a lot of work to cover all of those songs. And I got to be honest with you, I kind of want a tiny bit of a break from Eurovision. Even though I want to, at the same time, I want to cover it. It's a lot. I've been uploading like almost every day, like a Eurovision track review, and it's a lot. But it's fun. I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't really want to at the end of the day. I'm just saying it's a lot. And a part of me would like to take a little bit more time off from it and then come back. But then I didn't want the songs to be older when I released reviews for them because, you know, I wanted, well, it's still more fresh to be circulating. And so right now I'm not entirely sure, if I'm going to continue covering all the remaining tracks that I have not covered. Like I said, I've covered like almost three quarters of the contest, which is pretty good. And there are definitely like one or two songs that, I really would like to talk about a little bit. I really want to talk about Russia's entry. I'd like to talk about Sweden with the Mamas. I'd like to talk about the Netherlands. And of course, this leads us to the big question that's on everybody's mind. What is going to happen with all of these songs and all of these performers who have been assigned to perform this year? There's not a lot of clarity on that right now. And I can sort of understand there's going to be a lot more kind of discussions and like figuring that out over the next courses of few weeks and months. But as we can predict, the Eurovision Song Contest will be held again in May of 2021. And it's looking very likely that Rotterdam will be hosting again. However, I did see something. The Dutch government has sort of put forth a figure and saying that it will cost $6.7 million or something for them to keep this contest another year. I mean, this is an expensive thing for a country to take on, and there's the fact that so much is put into this in advance, and all the money that will be lost from having to cancel the contest this year, or all the tickets that are going to be refunded. I mean, hopefully you would think things would just go back to zero, but no, there's going to be so many losses. And so it is a bit of a strain to just automatically assume that even a wealthier nation like the Netherlands can just drop of the hat, like no questions asked, oh yeah, we'll host it again next year, even though technically it's the first time or in a long time, in like 40 years. It's asking a lot of the country. So there's a lot of questions up in the air on whether potentially another city would potentially come in, probably from the Netherlands. But I mean, who knows? I mean, there's a potential that the song contest won't be held in the Netherlands next year, which would be really sad for the Netherlands because this was their moment. And the artists are who I just feel so sorry for. I mean, everyone, of course, who might be losing jobs because of this and stuff, seasonal work with this program. But these artists, especially some of them who have worked so hard to finally make it into this contest. I know Latvia's entry, Samantha Tina, she's gone through the qualifiers like 8 times to try and qualify, and she finally did this year for Eurovision and win Supernova. And then it's canceled. Like I cannot imagine. I saw a video of Israeli Eden Eileen like moved to tears, and I was there. I was there with her this morning. Like it was one of those things where you just like you wake up and you read the news and you're like, I'm going to go back to bed now. This coronavirus has officially canceled happiness. This coronavirus has canceled everything. And that's unfortunately a story that we are going to be dealing with for the next few weeks, potentially months. That's what's so scary about all of this is we don't know for sure. It's like, oh, it's all going to be over in 2 weeks. We don't know. We don't know how long schools are going to be closed. We don't know how long borders are going to be closed. We don't know how long. I have a trip to Norway planned in July. I really hope I can go on that trip to Norway in July. But at this point, so much is up in the air. It's really scary to think about just because, from mental health standpoint, it's like you want to have something to look forward to. And this uncertainty that's suddenly being cast over everything, and it's not just Eurovision, but Eurovision was definitely the cherry on top for me with all of this. Movie releases, music releases. I want to make another video about the music industry and dealing with the coronavirus because I have a lot of things to say about certain artists and more importantly, certain record labels deciding to push back album releases because of this pandemic, particularly digital album releases. I have a few choice words to say about that. So I will make a separate video where I will discuss my thoughts and opinions on the bad decisions that I think are being made, or more importantly, the selfish decisions that are being made in this time when I think art and culture is needed more than ever. And I don't see anything unsafe about digitally releasing music to the public. I can understand, physical sales might have to be delayed or, take a hit. But especially for artists who have already made their money twice over, shouldn't it be about the art, not about the money that's coming in? Shouldn't that not be a concern? And so I will make another video in the next few days addressing that. And anyway, all of this aside, this is a big unknown. So the tricky thing is that certain countries are internally selected for their Eurovision acts. They, have plucked someone, like for instance, Greece. Stefania has already been asked by the Greek broadcaster to represent Greece in 2021. It's like instantaneous. Like a bunch of countries have already announced that. I know the Netherlands has already announced that. I know that Ukraine, which I'm so happy Ukraine has, that means Goa A are going to be back in 2021. Of course, we don't know if their song is going to be the song they're going to perform, but what's more important, and the big battle that we need to fight right now, is giving these artists who were slated to perform this year a chance to perform next year if they want to. They should be able to have that choice. And so that's where we're running into some controversy here with countries like Sweden, with countries like Estonia. I'm not entirely sure if countries like Norway and Iceland and other countries that have these big national selection competitions are also going to be struggling with this issue, which is basically, for example, Uku Suviste, who is supposed to represent Estonia this year. Now, disregard what you think about him as a performer or him as the representative for Estonia this year. He did win Eesti Laul fair and square. He deserves to have his shot, especially since he hasn't, performed at Eurovision before. He's another person who's been trying with the national selections for years. This was his moment. And what Estonia has done is they've invited him right away to automatically qualify for the semifinals in Eesti Laul 2021. The semifinals, not the finals, the semifinals. And of course, even the finals, that's not enough, in my opinion. It should be up to Uku whether he wants to choose to participate. And he should be given a little bit of time to make that decision as well. There's definitely no rush here. Obviously, we're talking about over a year from now, and a year from now until Eesti Laul 2021. It should be up to Uku whether he wishes to have the opportunity to represent for Estonia next year, or if he decides that he wants to compete, which that's what they're offering for him right now, and so he'll leave it up to chance again, or if he decides, what, I'll leave it to someone else to represent. And that should be his decision. The same goes for the Mamas with Melody Festival in Sweden. In fact, I feel this even more in my heart for the Mamas, as they are this wonderful trio that I was really excited to talk about on my channel. I am in love with their song. They're one of the 3 Melody Festival tracks that I had listened to before the final had actually aired, and they were one of my 3 favorites. We saw them with Jan Lundvik on the stage last year with Too Late for Love, but of course they were backup singers. So this year they were finally getting their moment. And, as much as, some of their song is a little bit safe and a little bit derivative in terms of like the style of gospel pop music, it was still such a pleasing pill to swallow to listen to. The song, it just infectiously moved you. It just built you up. It gave you that serotonin. It really gave you that dopamine. They were just so likable on stage and so talented. And I think a really breath of fresh air for Sweden, especially considering that Sweden was finally sending not 1, but 3 women for the first time since 2014. And they were 3 women of color too. In fact, one of those performers is from the United States. Their other couple might be as well, which I think is, I know that I did in my Germany video rant about how I feel like artists should be from the country unless they're immigrants from the country that they're representing. I have since backtracked on those statements. I apologize that I went so hard on Ben Dolic for that, being Slovenian. I think I just was getting a little bit of like German pride going there, and I was just wanting to see Germany send one of its more own, so to speak, and not someone who just recently come into the country as a hot new thing from Slovenia. But I, retract. I think it's great that we're, having people from all over Europe and possibly the world. We have an Ethiopian Israeli participant this year. Well, we had an Ethiopian Israeli participant. Hopefully, Eden Eileen will be asked to participate or invited to participate next year for Israel. Like I said, every single contestant should have the right to choose whether they want to perform. And they should also have the right to choose whether they want to perform their old song or if they want to perform a new one. And so, again, unfortunately, and it's really sad, I cannot say with certainty. You'd almost think that in a scenario like this, that would be a given, right? You'd be like, oh, of course the Eurovision delegation is going to understand how, unfair this is, how unprecedented this is, how rules need to be changed. But that's not what I'm hearing from certain people and from certain Eurovision top people. There's, these rules that a song cannot be released within a certain time period before, the Eurovision Song Contest. And so people are like, well, it would break the rules for people to sing old songs from this year next year. I'm like, this contest has never been through something like this before. They need to change the rules so that they can allow people to sing an older song. People are complaining and saying, well, it would be boring if people sang old songs from last year a year from now. We listen to Eurovision songs from 20 years ago like they were yesterday, all of the time. I do not think that it would make the contest that boring. I think that it would feel actually really nice to see these songs fully brought to completion and see how they would stack up against each other. It will forever bug me to wonder and not know if these songs, how they stacked up against each other. Not to mention, it would be kind of unfair to certain countries who sent really quality songs, and then other countries who decided to take really bad, in my opinion, and many other people's opinions, make very bad decisions about who they chose to send. I'm looking at you, France, for example. They have had time to, digest all of that input, and they've seen the general reaction to it. And, it's too late. You've sent this act. I mean, you can revamp the song, but you can't change the song. This cycle has to be, it's not fair to the other acts who got it right the first time if you're going to get a chance to restart. I don't think it's fair to give France another chance. France already blew their Eurovision 2020 chances. I'm sorry, France, this was not your year. So I don't really feel comfortable with France being like, oh, yay, we're going to probably have some people keep their old songs. Like Lithuania is probably going to want to send On Fire again because, I mean, it was so well received, right? But we can now do something just like that. And it gives them this unfair advantage. And as much as, it's all about fairness to everyone, it's like, well, you each get one shot and you need to learn from your mistakes. And it's not really fair, I think, if certain countries get to change their entries while others do. It would have to almost be everyone has to do a new entry, then for it to be fair. And I wouldn't be too upset, if all of the returning artists who wanted to return, because keep in mind, not all of them are going to be able to. There's going to be at least one or two who, if they were asked, are probably going to say, look, you know what, I just don't know if I can commit to that long. I can't guarantee that. A lot of them aren't going to be able to commit right away anyway. It is quite a ways away. So I have a feeling that, a lot of people will be asked and they might turn it down. All power to them, but everyone should have the chance to be asked. And then it should be, across the board, either everyone keeps their same song, that's the rule, or everyone has to change their song. I don't really know how I feel about this rule of people can change their song if they want to. Because like I said, that's putting certain countries in an unfair advantage. Because they've had a lot more time. Not to mention, if a country is going to release a new song right before the contest starts, and then we have countries that are running on older songs, that's just not fair to have that competition. Because ultimately, the newer songs might get more clout. It just should all be across the board. So those are my thoughts on that. And going back to Uku and the Mamas and that whole situation, I'm sure there's other countries where this issue is also. I think Albania is in the same dilemma where like Ari Lena might have to participate in Festivali again. It's not right. And so people are saying, well, then what do you do with Estival 2021? Do you cancel it because to make it more fair? Do you hold the competition but just let all of the participating contestants know that they will not be participating in Eurovision that year? For San Remo in Italy, it's the same thing. Like, do they hold these competitions and just like everyone knows going forward that, the prize is something else? But the prize that year, and this is a rare anomaly of a year, is that this win will not send to Eurovision 2021. That act has already been chosen. Diodato was already chosen. He won San Remo and didn't get a chance to actually be in Eurovision. So we've got to, if we're canceling 1 year of Eurovision, we got to kind of effectively cancel 1 year of national selections. I mean, I think that's fair. And the reason why I think that's fair is because the people who are, you might be thinking, oh, it's 1 year of national selections. We're getting a year canceled of Eurovision. So isn't it only fair that we then kind of make it even out the selections? It's only 1 year. And the thing is, the contestants will know what they're signing up for. They'll know going into it that they're not there to win Eurovision. They're there to, get exposure. I mean, Melody Festivalen is still a big contest. I do not think that the ratings for Melfest would take a hit if the Mamas, if they knew that whoever won, the Mamas was still going. Like, I really, maybe the whoever wins is the backup in case the Mamas decide not to go in last minute. There can be some sort of consolation there. But still, I think Melfest would do okay. Same with Esty Lal. I mean, even then, it's like, can you take the hit for a second and just appreciate that these artists who competed their butts off in 2020 did not know that this was going to happen to them. And it's not fair that they didn't know. It's more fair if the people competing in 2021 all know that there is no possibility, or a very, very slim possibility, that whether they win or not, they're going to be representing Eurovision that year. That's my honest opinion. And again, like I said, it should be up to Uku and it should be up to the Mamas whether they, decide to compete again. I'm sure that Melfest is obviously going to extend an invite to the Mamas. They're probably going to do a similar thing where they'll put them straight to the semifinal. Again, I don't think that's enough. They should at the very least be allowed to go right to the final. If not, I would hope that there would be so much, especially for the Mamas, because I know that they're so well loved. I would hope that with the televoting and everything, that countries would pity those entries so much that it would be a no-brainer that they would win, and that all the other performers, I think I would feel really bad as a Melfest performer knowing that the Mamas were never given the chance. It would be so unfair. I would It would ruin the competition. It would ruin the competition. I think it would make certain entries feel really bad about taking their spot, and they wouldn't feel good about that. I think it would make certain entries sort of automatically kind of want the Mamas to win that year, so it would sort of not be a really fair competition. And so that's why, I think they should compete just independent of Eurovision for 2021. The winner, I don't know, maybe they can add some more incentive. Maybe there's some other prize that they can give that winner. And maybe, maybe they could give the winners of Melfest and Esty Lal, maybe they could give them an added bonus of they get automatically put into the semifinal or the final of the following year's contest to actually be in Eurovision if they want to. So they still get another shot at representing in 2022. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's an extra sort of like, we'll give you that one little extra shot where we'll interject you into the next year's competition if you win this year, but you still, can't go because we're sending the Mamas. It's a whole shit show. There's so much that's going to have to be figured out. And personally, I don't know if the Eurovision committee has thought all this through very well yet. I personally feel like if they were so sure the contest was probably not going to be held, I feel like they should have come out. I don't know. Either they should have come out sooner with this announcement, or they should have waited a little bit longer. I've heard, of course, the big argument, which is for her holding the contest remotely. And I'm all for that. I really, there's some trust things that come into that. Certain countries have more production and better stages, better studios. But at the same time, it's also like, well, it's what we can do. Eurovision goes on, we can't just throw the whole towel in because of certain things, in my opinion. That's just letting this virus win. And ultimately, that's going to be my huge point about this, is that I don't like seeing such a defeatist attitude from certain things, particularly people in the entertainment industry, when it comes to, protecting the bottom line and not really valuing the power of art and culture in a time like this. Because I do think it's just letting the virus win. I think people really need, things like Eurovision, they're a real light for a lot of people. I know so many people who online have said, like, this is something that really helps them with their mental health. And not just Eurovision. There's so many things that have been canceled, especially in arts and culture. And it's hard, it takes a toll on you when you're already facing such uncertainty, basically like wartime levels of kind of fear and isolation. And then on top of that, you don't have anything to look forward to or anything that you can really put hope into because you're so unsure if it's going to be canceled or you just know it will be. I mean, there's such a pessimism that sort of seeps into everything. Now, of course, I do understand that, at the end of the day, the health and safety of everyone is of the utmost importance. And at the end of the day, do I think that they made the decision they had to? Well, it's hard to say, I mean, especially today when emotions are so high, and I keep thinking that they could have tried harder to fight for this contest to still be on this year. Again, the other argument, so again, the argument against holding the televote everyone remote viewing is that there would still be so many people in one place, way more than 100 people, 50 people, and it would still be unsafe. Not to mention, you'd still have a lot of delegates traveling, um, a lot of technical setup. The staging would need to be started to be set up way back in April. There's just a lot of risks there. Also, there was this one argument which I don't really buy, which is that the Eurovision is about the live audience. Of course it is. But is that worth sacrificing the contest if you don't have it? So many people watch this contest by streaming, or on TV. And I just feel like negating all of the majority of viewers who watch this through a TV screen and don't actually see it in a live audience. Yes, it's a shame that the performers don't get to interact with a live audience. And maybe, yeah, it wouldn't be the same, but is it worth canceling the entire contest for that? The way the wording of the, EBU's description of why they're canceling and not holding a remote studio version of this is that they don't feel it's in the spirit of Eurovision to hold this contest without a live audience. Again, I understand where they're coming from, but so much of this is unprecedented. And I think to just throw in the towel completely, and not, give these songs a rightful chance to compete against each other and give one of those songs a rightful chance to, actually win. You could have a, second showing of the Eurovision like top 5 or top 10 like later on in August or something. You could have like a when things are safer, you could give those winning acts a chance to engage with the live audience. But, instead, and of course, what I was more advocating for was postponement. And in the last week, that was what I thought was going to happen. I kind of knew in my head that we all knew in the last week that nothing was going to go as normal. And I just assumed that this contest was going to get postponed, maybe to June, maybe to July. Now, of course, it is a little tricky having the Olympics this summer. I know that they don't want to clash with that, so they do need to make sure they're distanced from the Olympics a little bit. But still, the Olympics are 2 weeks in the whole summer. I think they can handle it any of those other weeks. There's Junior Eurovision that was going to be held, that I think is still going to be held in November. What if they cancel Junior Eurovision? Because like not many people care about that, and not many people would bat an eye about that. And why don't they host 2020's Eurovision in the fall? But then they say that if they were to do that, it would not give them enough time to prepare for Eurovision, which would be only 6 months later. And I understand that argument, but there are ways to work around that. You could start working on both concerts at the same time in terms of preparing the stage, or you could delay Eurovision 2021 by a few more months. That way, it's sort of like a slower delay than the delay this year, so that by the time we roll around next year, it'll be a long enough gap that we make up for lost time. So there could be, like I said, if they delay it in 2020, they could have delayed it a little bit more in 2021 just to give them a few extra months to prepare the stage and to prepare for the next year's contest. I hate to say this, but another thing that they could have done, and I know some people might think this is a little controversial, is they could have decided to hold the contest in Rotterdam this fall and then cancel Eurovision 2021. And this way, I don't know, maybe, like I said, the national selections can still go through, but they'll know that they're not going to Eurovision. They'll know that. And that means that, in delaying Eurovision 2020, we lose 2021. Now, you might be thinking, well, what's the point? We're losing one contest. Well, the difference is we're not, 2021, no one will release songs for it. We won't have all these artists excited to go to Eurovision and realizing they're not going to actually be able to go. 2021 would just be off the table completely. And so in sacrificing for this year, we would lose it next year, but we would still, it wouldn't be a full 2 years without Eurovision, because that's what we're getting now. We're getting a full 24 months without Eurovision. We would instead get a slightly longer break, but it wouldn't be a full 24 months, because we would be holding Eurovision in October or November this year. There's so many things that I feel like they could have done to make it more fair for the acts of Eurovision 2020, because we were in this. We had the 41 songs. This was ready to go, all aboard, right? 2018 slogan, I think that was. Well, yeah. Like, I just feel like it would have been more I just think there should have been more thought around how to protect this contest. And the excuses that they made, I feel like there were ways to get around those excuses. It was a lose lose situation. Like I said, there's the risk that we would have canceled next year if we went ahead with this year delayed. There was the risk of blah, blah, blah. There's always these things, but it's ultimately weighing what's most fair for these competitors. And so I don't know. Also, I feel like the Eurovision audience should have a right to decide. I think that there should be some polls or something done where in the next few months they ask us, like, would you like to see us actually hold Eurovision in 2020, like in the later part of this year, and cancel Eurovision in 2021 so that we can get time to prepare for 2022 in May, and that way in 2021, like I said, there's no illusion of anything happening that year. Now, of course, the other issue with postponement is, can the Ahoy, the arena in Rotterdam, just automatically be booked for something like that? And the scheduling of everyone and everything. It would be a bit difficult postpone it. Perhaps I hadn't thought that through. And so that's the only other big argument against it, and why, again, I'm presenting options, but at the end of the day, I mean, can I get that mad? It was a lose-lose situation. If they postponed it, there's a very good chance that possibly half of the contestants would not be able to make it, or it would have really severely impacted a lot of things. It would have severely impacted the city of Rotterdam, and having to postpone things instead of just doing it a year from that date, having to postpone things to a later time during that year where things were already booked, it just also messes up a lot of other stuff that is scheduled. Remember, it's not just Eurovision that's getting pushed back. A lot of things are being rescheduled. It's a whole nightmare right now. So that logistically is a bit of a roadblock that I do see how they looked at that and thought, gosh, I just don't think this would work. I still, like I said, I still feel like this was defeatist. I feel like they were jumping the gun a little bit. Yes, it was a given that Eurovision as normal would not happen this May, but there were ways they could have made this work. There were ways, and possibly even times, where they could just wait and see how things were going. But, health and safety is of the utmost importance. And, I know some people might be like, this is just a silly song contest. At the end of the day, I'm glad that everyone is doing the utmost that they can to contain this pandemic. I have no criticism of governments who are doing, if I have criticisms of governments, it's that they're not doing enough. But I'm not going to criticize a government for being overly cautious right now. So at the last thing I want to do is say, like, I wish that blah, 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 blah. They shouldn't be having such strict, restrictions on people. I'm not going to do a Vanessa Hudgens take.
July sounds like a bunch of bullshit. I'm sorry. But, like, it's a virus. I get it. Like, I respect it. But at the same time, like, even if everybody gets it, like, yeah, people are gonna die. Yeah, people are gonna die. Yeah, people are gonna die. People are gonna die. It's just terrible, but, like, inevitable? I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this right now.
It's a virus. I get it. Like, we're not doing that. Good Lord, that video was low. Goodness gracious, Vanessa, that was painful to see. Oh my goodness. At the end of the day, I'm just left feeling very defeated and empty. Eurovision was something I still had planned to do a lot more with my channel with, and now I don't know what to do with my channel. Of course, there's a lot of other things I could be doing with my channel. Even if there's going to be album delays, which again, like, is something else I'm going to talk about, there are old albums that I could talk about. So, I will say this. As of right now, I do not plan on necessarily going through and covering every single remaining Eurovision track, because some of them there's a very good chance they're not even going to be in Eurovision, so I don't see the point in covering them. But there are a few that I would like to cover, and so I don't know. I might make a video about the Melfest winners or the Melfest finalists, and that way I'm talking about the mamas, because I do want to talk about Daughter and Hannah and like all those artists, because I had a lot to think about with that. Even though I didn't really watch Melfest this year, I did tune into some of the end of it. And yeah, so I'll see, and sort of as we go, what I might do in talking about some of these. And I do want to talk about Russia's entry. So yeah, because that's quite something. Yeah, I guess that's all I have to say about this, but let me know in the comments what's your thoughts. Do you agree with me about some of the ideas that I put forward? Do you feel like this was a rushed, maybe possibly, I don't wanna say ill-advised decision, but do you feel as though there's room to reconsider? Because I'm seeing some rumblings that, it's possible that this might not be 100%. That there's still hope that maybe this could be postponed. Because I think postponing would be the only other option at this point. Unless, and I'm sure people will do Eurovision. People will do their own sort of voting Eurovision thing. I'm sure there's going to be so many polls and like things. And I still want to rank the songs, by the way. So I still will rank all 41 songs, or at least I'll tell you my top 10 and least favorite 10. So look out for those videos because I do want to talk about those and rank them when we have them all. And so those videos will be coming, irregardless of this. But yeah, it's just, I mean, all of this, I didn't think this was going to disrupt what I talked about on my YouTube channel so much, but I am finding that I'm like, oh my God, just what am I, I'm having to change. And so many content creators are. There are so many content creators that rely on Eurovision to, get views on their YouTube channels. Like there are so many people, reporters, independent journalists. My heart goes out to all y'all. Of course, my heart really goes out to all the grocery store workers, truck drivers, healthcare workers, police officers, all of the first responders, all the people who are keeping this world together right now because this world is falling apart and it's truly a scary time. And to all of you out there watching, I really, really do hope that you are safe, that your loved ones are safe, that you are healthy. Um, please, please practice social distancing if you can. And please wash your hands. That's all I have to say about that. It's a heartbreaking day for all Eurovision fans. And I just really needed to sit down and talk about like all of it because there's just so much that went through my mind once I immediately thought about this. But yeah, I really do think the decision should come down to the artists themselves, what they want to do with 2021. That's the most important thing for me with this right now. I can sleep soundly at night knowing if every single artist had the chance or the choice to decide what they wanted to do with the competition next year. It's not fair if countries are going to block, these acts from getting the choice, and that's not right to me. And that's, yeah, no, it doesn't sit well with me. So hopefully there's enough public outcry about that. A Swedish broadcaster and Estonian broadcaster and Albanian and Norwegian. Hopefully, there's enough outcry about all of that they know that they've got to do the right thing here because this is unprecedented and rules are going to have to change. Rules are going to have to change this one time. So, for the first time since 1955, we will not have Eurovision this year, most likely. I'm not giving up hope, and I hope you don't either. I will see you all in my next video. Thank you all so much for watching. Please give this a like and subscribe if you are not. Would really, really help me out so, so much. Subscribe to content creators right now, you guys, especially since, you're probably sitting at home and not as much to do. Sit and possibly watch those ads on someone favorite, a YouTuber you really love's video. That money they make is so crucial and vital for them because a lot of them have lost other forms of income. And so it's the least we can do. I know that's what I'm trying to do. So subscribe and follow and comment and support your favorite content creators right now. I'll see you all in my next video. Please stay healthy. Peace, love, and light to you all. Bye.